everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of My Veterinary Life podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Marcy Kirk. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm joined by our other co-host, Dr. Annie Chavant.
Hello, everyone. My pronouns are also she, her, hers.
We have a very exciting guest today. We are joined by Megan Leavey. Megan is a former active duty United States Marine Corps corporal who served as a military police canine handler. She received numerous awards and recognition for her time in the Marine Corps. The 2017 movie Megan Leavey chronicles her experience in becoming a canine handler and the lengths she went to in order to adopt her dog Rex. Currently, Megan is a professional speaker, veterinary technician assisting with surgical procedures, and a mom. She will also be the keynote speaker at the 2025 AVMA Convention. We are so excited to chat with her ahead of this big event, but before we jump in, we do want to share a few words from our partner. Founded 70 years ago with an unwavering commitment to science-led pet nutrition, Hill's Pet Nutrition is on a mission to help enrich and lengthen the special relationships between people and their pets. Hill's is dedicated to pioneering research for dogs and cats using a scientific understanding of their specific needs. As a leading veterinarian-recommended pet food brand, knowledge is their first ingredient, with over 220 veterinarians, PhD nutritionists, and food scientists working to develop breakthrough innovations in pet health. Hill's prescription diet therapeutic nutrition plus their everyday wellness product line, Hill's Science Diet, are sold at vet clinics and pet specialty realtors worldwide. For more information about their products and nutritional philosophy, visit hillspet.com. Veterinary professionals can visit hillsvet.com for more information. With that, welcome to the show, Megan.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys and be here.
We have been looking forward to this conversation so much and cannot wait for the keynote. This is very exciting for us. Normally, we talk to the keynotes afterwards, so we are really building up the anticipation for us. So before we really jump in, we like to start our conversations at the beginning. So can you share with us sort of how your journey with animals first began?
Yeah, sure. I've always been an animal lover growing up. When I was a little kid, I had dogs and cats. I was constantly finding kittens, I feel like. I would bring home kittens and be like, can we keep them? So I've just always been an animal lover growing up. I'm an only child, so I kind of feel like they were like my siblings growing up. So that's really where my love for animals started. And then I never knew that I would be a canine handler. When I didn't even know that was an option when I was going into the Marines. It just ended up having to work out that way.
That's really fascinating. As a fellow only child, I understand the pets as siblings concept. They definitely have
Mm-hmm.
a special place in my childhood as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you mentioned not being aware of the handler as an option in the military, and I'm not very familiar with the process either, and I'm wondering if maybe some of our listeners aren't as well. So, would you mind just kind of sharing with us what that looked like?
Sure. So I ended up joining the Marines in, oh my gosh, let's see, it was 2003. So a while now. But my first year of college, I was away from home for the first time, and I'm from New York. And that's when 9/11 happened. I was like, I went to school in SUNY Cortland. It's upstate New York, so a few hours away from my hometown. And I didn't really know like what I wanted to do with my life going into school. I was athletic. I played softball. So that was kind of like, all right, I'll do that and like figure it out along the way. And then I feel like the world changed when 9/11 happened. And I really felt strongly that I had a bigger purpose in life and I could help. Like, I love to help. That's my goal in life is to make other people's lives better. And, I always tell people, treat people how you want to be treated. So I was like, I can do this. And when I joined the Marine Corps, I happened to be studying criminal justice. So I went to a recruiter's office and was like, hey, I want to join the Marines. Do I have to cut my hair? That was my first question. And they were like, no. And I was like, all right, sign me up. I think they were like a little taken aback, like, that's it. But so my recruiter, they make you take tests to see kind of where you're at academically wise, like what job would be a good fit for you. And because I happened to be studying criminal justice, they threw out military police just because it kind of like went hand in hand, I guess. And I was like, that sounds good. So, because I went into the military police field, once I was in school for that, these two Marines came around halfway through our school and brought up the canine aspect. And they did a whole demonstration for our class. And I think everybody was like blown away and was like, that job seems awesome. And me being an animal lover myself, I was like, I could do that. I've grown up with dogs my whole life. I love animals. I feel like a bond with them. I feel like I relate to them. And when they came to our class, everybody was like, I want to do this. And they were like, okay, so let's take a poll here. Whoever doesn't have like a 90% higher academic test score average in this class, put your hand down. Some people put their hand down. If you don't have a first class physical fitness test, put your hand down. If you're not, don't have a good rifle shooting score, put your hand down. So they were getting at, we only really want the best of the best for this job. It's like we're picking you, you're not picking us type of a thing. So I really realized, okay, I have to work really hard to be selected for this position.
That's really helpful, and I actually kind of appreciate that early in the career, they in that learning process, they came and shared you that. Because what if you were well into it and they're like, "Well, you don't qualify," and, you wouldn't have known that option even existed. So, I think that's all really interesting, and I'm super curious because I know how it is when we bring just a companion dog into our home. There's always a little adjustment period. Everyone's
Hmm.
learning the ins and outs, and I wonder if that exists with canine handlers or if they click quicker because these dogs are so well trained, or what that sort of pairing, how they decide what dogs go with what people and how that all meshes together.
Right. I think it's kind of a perfect storm. So when I first was stationed at Camp Pendleton in California, technically I was a canine handler, but I wasn't issued a dog for like the first 6 months of my military police career because there were no dogs available. So I would work the road as a regular police officer and I would go on my off time to the kennels. And I really was just the person in the bite suit for a very long time because there was no dog. But like in the military, you kind of have to prove yourself and show that you are able to do your job and everything. So, you kind of go through, I guess, like a hazing period. I don't know that they do that much anymore. Like I've been out of the Marine Corps for a long time, but you're the little man on the totem pole. So you're kind of doing the jobs that nobody else really wants to do. So I lived in that bite suit for a very long time. And my interaction with Rex in the beginning was just that, me in the bite suit and him biting me. And he was very intimidating and very scary. And he actually was not the first dog that was issued to me. They issued me this cute little German Shepherd. Her name was Ara, and she ended up failing out of the program. She just didn't have the work drive to be an explosive detection dog, sadly. So I'm sure she got adopted to a nice family. But I would be like trying to do like a road sweep with her and she'd just be like looking for butterflies on the side of the road and it just wasn't a good fit. So I was a little disappointed because after waiting so long to be issued a dog, then I finally get her. And then she washed out of the program. And that's like disheartening. I'm like, is it me? And then you kind of come to find out not all dogs are meant to be working dogs. And Rex's former handler was getting out of the Marine Corps at that period of time. So it kind of like an opening happened, and that's why Rex became my dog. So I was really intimidated at first because he's a big aggressive boy that always just saw me in the bite suit. And Rex was way more experienced than me, even just him being a dog. He had already been deployed to Iraq. I hadn't. Um, it was just an intimidating situation, but I was up for the challenge. And when I got him, it was almost like he was like, "Come on, let me teach you." Like I took the leash and I was almost like holding him back. I felt like he knew what he was doing and I was still learning. But when you are issued a dog, the handlers, we have like a 2-week rapport period, is what we call it, where you're not like jumping right into work. They want you to be the one that feeds the dog every day. They want you to take them on long walks and kind of like get used to their mannerisms, give them a bath, brush them, just be comfortable touching them and handling them, before we really get into like basic obedience and work things like that. So I'm sure that I'm not the first person that has had gone through multiple dogs. So it is kind of like what's available, but they will also move things around if it's not working out for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is interesting to know the sort of process behind how the pairs are made and then how you have established that relationship
Yeah.
with Rex or with whichever dog you're assigned. I am curious how like how that relationship looks because you mentioned the rapport period, which makes a ton of sense. But
Mhm.
is it uh, does it feel like a business relationship, like a working relationship? Does it feel like a pet? Like how does the human animal bond play into a military dog relationship?
So it's pretty interesting because in the military, we have kennel facilities that house the dogs. So they live there full time. Whereas in the civilian world or law enforcement world, the dogs would come home with you and live with you. So like right now, currently, canine is still kind of a part of my life because my husband is a canine police officer. So we actually have a work dog that lives in our house with us, another German Shepherd. And that's very different because he's always around. He's around our family. Whereas in the military, it is more business-like because they live in a kennel facility. You see them during business hours. So I feel like Rex and me really got to bond like for real on our first deployment, which is a little scary. But also at the same time, really brought us close together because we did live together. He was with me every second of every single day. So I kind of found myself lucky in that regard that I had that time to bond with him and to learn how he works and actually see him really work, not just in a training scenario. So it was really intense, but in a good way, I guess you could say.
I never put that together that they're that difference. I when I was in vet school, one of my classmates, her father was a canine handler for police, and she would talk about the dogs coming home and everything.
Yeah.
And I guess I never thought about that difference, but then you would really bond on a deployment with all
Mhm.
those that time spent together. And that's I think the human animal bond is incredible. And no matter if it's a working relationship or wherever it is, I'm in awe of it most of the time. And I just love seeing different aspects of it, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited to hear your keynote because and to watch the movie, with a big group of people who all kind of come
Yeah.
from similar mindsets as veterinary professionals. But, one of the things that's highlighted in your story and in the movie, and something we just wanted to chat about, is there were some challenges in adopting Rex whenever the time
Mm.
came for that. So, can you just talk to us about what would normally happen and how you sort of worked through those to bring Rex homes with you?
Of course. So it's funny, I did 2 deployments with Rex, so, like I said, we spent a lot of time together in that way, and I had a hard time, going back to the kind of business-like relationship when I came back from those deployments on base, having him back in the kennel facility. And I think I was maybe one of the first people that was doing this, and I luckily did not get in trouble at the time, but I used to go and take him from the kennel facility and say whoever was on, like, we called it, like, kennel duty, whoever would feed the dogs and clean the runs out. I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna take Rex. He's not gonna be here. If anybody questions you about it, obviously, you can tell them where he is, and I'll take the fall for that." But I would bring him to my barracks room, which is kinda like a dorm room, and he would just stay in my barracks room with me. So and, I traveled with him, and I know he was aggressive. He was kind of handler protective, which was great for me. Um, but I was also very aware of it, so I was prepared when he was in those type of situations around other people, that he needed to be muzzled in crowds and just to be very aware that I can't let people just approach us and have a pet like maybe a normal dog would. But I also have been around him, and he was getting older when I was getting out, and he was cool in my barracks room, and he would sleep on my bed with me. And um, I really was just hoping that I could give him like the life that I thought he deserved after his retirement. So our military dogs have a very necessary process for their retirement. Um, we go through all these scenarios where we videotape them, and you put them in different scenarios. So like other Marines will pretend to be your neighbors and get in an argument, and you're just holding him on a leash and like kind of see how he reacts in that situation. And then you do the same thing with like the tools that we use, like our bite sleeve, and see if he reacts differently to like the training tools. And that's not a bad thing if he goes after the sleeve. They're trained to do that, but they just want to make sure that if you are in like a real life situation in your home life, that the dog is not going to hurt somebody or be put in a position where it can go wrong potentially. So I went through all of that when I was getting out of the Marine Corps. And, age also plays a factor. When I got out, I think Rex was 7 or 8, and he was hurt in our second deployment. So he was deemed non deployable again. And that was like our main mission at that point in time, was to deploy. So I was happy that he wasn't going to be going overseas anymore. Um, but I was sad to leave him. But at the same time, I knew that with his age and because he was still able to work, that I couldn't just take him because that's his job. And if everybody just adopted their dog when they were done with their service, we wouldn't have a working dog program. So luckily for me, Rex did pass all of his qualifications for retirement except one, which was from, ironically, the veterinarian. Spent a lot of time with me and him. And I think maybe 20 years ago in the medical fields, we didn't really use like sedatives or medication on a regular basis, maybe as we do now. They didn't use trazodone, before his appointment, or DKT for like sedated exams or anything like that. So it was really always a fight, and it was hard to do an exam on him, especially in the vet office, because, as you guys are probably well versed in, dogs coming in and not being happy at the vet. So understandably, I understand where this veterinarian was coming from, but it was just really frustrating back then because I've also seen Rex in so many other scenarios, and I was like, I'm telling you, he will be fine. I promise you. But that was really the challenge that I faced. But because I was not going to be able to adopt him at that particular point in time when I was getting out, the vet already was not signing off, but everything else was kind of in play. My kennel master, who was like in charge of our program at Camp Pendleton, was like, listen, why don't we just wait this out? Let's revisit this in a few years if you're still even wanting to adopt him, because he still has to work. And, maybe down the road, things will change. So I really spent 4 years just in limbo. And I was probably so annoying because I would keep in touch with the handlers that would have Rex. Because he was non-deployable, he was a lot of people's what they would call secondary dog. So they had their dog that they were getting ready to deploy with, but they would also just keep Rex proficient and certified like to work on our base as just a regular police dog. So he actually went through, excuse me, 11 different handlers in that 4-year time period. And nobody really took on like the rapport like I did with him, which I'm thankful for. Because what if somebody came next and was like, no, I love this dog. Like, I want him. It kind of, would have made it harder for me to step over that person and be like, no, I'm going to take him, or have it become like a fight. So I was lucky that no one bonded with him in that respect. And I did keep in touch with people that stayed in the Marine Corps and worked, and they were happy to give me updates and send me pictures and be like, here's your jerk dog. um, so it was really, kind of a waiting and patience period. And then I got a phone call that he was sick. He had a seizure and he was having some medical issues because at this point he was 12. So I'm lucky that he even made it that long. And he was a civilian, but he was a sergeant. He was my sergeant at the time, the person that gave me this phone call and told me that Rex had kind of taken a turn for the worse health-wise and that he was not gonna be able to work anymore, and, if he's not able to work, it's, probably he's gonna be put to sleep. So he was like, "If you wanna call your senator or, make some noise, now is the time to do it." And I took that opportunity to do that.
And there's so much that I love about that, and I'm just gonna jump in real quick because I first of all love that there was a community that was helping you, right? And, like, keeping you updated along the way, and that just, to me, speaks even more about the further impacts the human-animal bond can have on us. And I also wanna take a moment, just like you said, to celebrate how far veterinary medicine has come.
Mhm.
Because my own dog, I mean, he had to be, you know, the chill dog protocol before we went in, and I knew
Mhm.
him since he was 2 days old. He was not a working military dog, you
Yeah.
know? And we always went everywhere with a basket muzzle just in case.
Yeah.
And, it's the moment it's stories like this, that we learn from, and it's just that we know more now, and we do more
Yes.
now, and,
Mhm.
there's so much that we can use to advocate for that so that we can maintain those human-animal bonds. For me, that's what it comes back to. So I just wanted to add that I love that it brought a community a community helped you with
Mhm.
this and gave you the heads up of this was happening so you could take the steps necessary to give him those last months with you,
Yeah.
um, in such a special way, and as a moment to reflect on, we are making progress in
Yes.
the profession, and I love that. So, okay,
Mhm.
Annie, you go.
No, I think that's really well said, and is an important kind of commentary on um, what potential obstacles that there could be to adoption, but then how we can work around it. And yeah, I mean, I think it really speaks for itself the fact that you were willing to wait 4 years for him and
Yeah.
just wanted to bring him home. I can only imagine how great of a feeling it was to have him walk through your door for the first
It
time
was
and be
it was so
officially
cool.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
Mhm.
And I love also that this whole experience kind of opened your eyes
Mm.
more to what else you can do with animals and a little bit more to the field of veterinary medicine as well.
Yeah.
So you didn't stop with just Rex. You've continued
No.
to dedicate your life to helping animals. So can you
Yeah.
give us a little update of what you've been up to since then?
Yeah. Kind of stayed in the animal field. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I started working in New York City, and I was for like a private company, and I was issued another bomb dog, my sweet little chocolate lab girl. Her name was Patriot, and she was such a sweetheart. Obviously didn't do the bite work aspect, but she was an explosive detection dog. And we worked at all different contracts in New York City. We did Yankee Stadium, we did the Piers, the Freedom Tower, Times Square, all different, high profile places that you would think in the city. But on the other flip side, she did live with me. And she was just like such a sweetheart, so willing to please as labs are. So I was so lucky I had her for 10 years. And when I retired her at 8, and I was like, so now that you're not on the company's dime anymore, how am I going to pay for you? So I was like, well, I love animals. And I did learn, basic first aid type of things when I was in the Marine Corps. We had to learn that before we deployed. And I was like, let me see if maybe I can start working at a vet's office and then I can get those sweet discounts for my girl. So that's really how I ended up in the veterinary medicine field. And I started kind of green, like a veterinary assistant. And I worked at the same hospital for 8 years. And I just kind of worked my way up the ladder on the job training. And, before I knew it, I was running surgeries with the owner of the practice. And I loved it. I loved it. And I also loved that I just feel like I get animals. I don't know if that probably does make sense to you guys, but, like, if there was an aggressive cat or a mean dog or, that would come in, they'd be like, "Go get Megan," 'cause I wasn't scared. I was, like, up for the challenge, and I was like, "We got this. We can do this." I've handled worse dogs. Um, and I liked that they're, learning all of the ins and outs, that there was more different ways to treat and, like, doctors did things differently. So like working with different doctors, I picked up different tricks of the trade, and I really, really did enjoy it very much. And so that's kind of how I got my start in there. And then when I had my daughter, before I had my daughter, I was like, I'm going to go back to work after I have her. And like, I don't know if you guys have children, but once I had her, I was like, okay, I'm good. I can be mom. So, for the first 2 years of her life, I'm full-time mommy, stay-at-home mom. And just within the last year, I kind of started going back and dipping my toe back into the veterinary medical field with a former doctor I worked with who does her own practice now, which is a little bit easier because she's a mom of three. So it's a little bit easier on my hours. Like we have similar time frames that we are available. So that's just been nice that I still I'm able to work in the field, just like not so full time, but I do really like still enjoy it and love it. So it's been great to like still do what I love while being a mom and raising a family.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that we try really hard to talk about on the podcast is making your career work for you. And what
Yeah.
worked at one stage of your career, it's just important to take those moments to reflect on what is important to you at this moment and what will best serve you and your family and your goals and everything like that. So I love that you've had the time and space to do that. And you've
Hmm.
had such an incredible story and it's not done, yet. But as we sort of wrap up, because unfortunately our time is going to run out here, um, we really, like I said at the beginning and throughout this, we are so looking forward to the keynote at the AVMA convention. If if there's listeners tuning in who are going to be there, what's something that you hope those in the audience take from this conversation, your story, your keynote? What's something that you hope they take from your story?
I always say, like, no matter what it is in your life, I just hope people realize, like, I'm gonna get emotional. Don't give up on something you love. Like, just because there's roadblocks, doesn't mean that there's not another way. And sometimes it's not instant gratification all the time. The things that you love and you care about take time and take effort. But don't give up on it. When there's a will, there's a way. And if you are determined to do something, put your mind to it. And, be willing to ask for help and put yourself out there. Um, and you can do it.
I really appreciate that takeaway, and I think it makes me even more excited to kind of hear the full breadth of the story at AVMA Convention, but I think that's gonna really resonate with, a lot of folks in our field in vet med because as we know and as we've talked about it on the show plenty of times before, things do get hard, and the option to give up is always there, and it's
Yeah.
often the easy, tempting option,
Hmm.
and so, your story and your determination is really a testament to how powerful and how rewarding it can be to stick with it through the difficulties. Get the resources that you need, ask for the help. I like that you mentioned that as well.
Hmm.
But if you've got something that you're really going for, don't give up. Don't ever
Yeah.
give up. And I
Hmm.
really appreciate that today, Megan.
Thank you. This time flew by
Yeah.
talking to you guys.
It it did, it did. I really enjoyed our time together and getting to know you a little bit more, and I cannot wait, to hopefully see you in person and hear what you have to share with our audience, but we really appreciate your time, and your kindness and your enthusiasm, and thank you for your contributions to the profession as well.
Thank you guys. I'm happy. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And thank you to each of you for joining us on this episode of My Veterinary Life podcast. We love sharing this journey with you. And remember, we want to hear from you. So please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you listen to. And you can also email us at mvlpodcast@avma.org. Take care, don't ever give up, and we'll see you next time.
I like it.